welcome. So this is all because we really would like to be able to get everything translated, and I didn't know until this morning that we were doing this. So I'm sorry for the delay. So this this will be the first class that we're teaching with Blue Sky Friends, and what we're doing. So Blue Sky Friends was something that was created by Geshe Michael to help people who are getting old, people who are maybe sick or dying, and also there are people who are in their families, people who, and really for everyone, because we're all in that position. And so one of the things he wanted us to do is there's these two documents that he has created that he always, when somebody asks about a relative who's dying or something like that, he always has he always gives them these two documents. And so basically one of them is what to do when you're with someone who's dying and how to treat them, how to relate to them. And the other one is after somebody has died and how you can help them after their death. And so that's what I'm going to cover today. So let's see. I want to no. Let's see. I want to share the screen, but I'm not sure. It doesn't seem to be coming up for me. Oh, I know what I can do. Okay, got it. There were so. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. So ideally what you're seeing is the just a picture of somebody. Is that what you're seeing? I hope so.
Yes. Yes.
Yes? Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for telling me. Okay. So this is the first. I'm going to go through these two teachings that Geshe gave. They're both very short, but the first one is advice that we got from his teacher, Ken Rinpoche, and this is what he had a chance. He was kind of like sort of like Geshe Michael, the way that it was difficult to get him to to sit down and get him to explain something to you. And so he did explain this one time. So this is the advice that he gave. So hang on, let me just move this. Okay. So originally this came from the director of an American hospital, and there was a lot of Mongolian and Tibetan patients, and so they had particular needs, particular expectations when they were with somebody who's dying. So he was an American. He didn't know, so he asked Ken Rinpoche to give him advice on what do you do when somebody's dying. In their culture, what is the best thing to do? And so these are the answers that he gave for this doctor. So the first one is when somebody's dying, when somebody's actually, when they're in the process of dying. So beforehand, it's okay, if they're talking, that's fine. But as they're dying, it's important to give them, not to disturb them anyway. So also don't show a lot of emotion or excitement, and speak softly. If people are crying, it will upset the person who's dying, and it might make it more difficult for them. So you want to make it as easy as possible for them and as comfortable as possible. Also, at this time, if they have certain beliefs or certain religious beliefs, or if there are things that are important to them, you can talk to them gently about those things and just anything that will make them feel comfortable. Like, for example, if they might be worried about maybe a family member isn't there, then say this person is sending their love and like just make them comfortable. If the person is for example, many of these people in that particular group or Buddhist. And so then he said, in that case, you can talk to them about compassion or loving kindness or the wish to become enlightened in order to help everyone. And just, and then also the fact that they can take refuge in the three jewels. Anything that will help them to understand. When somebody's dying, they might not be able to understand everything you say, but especially if it's very simple, then they can understand that and it will help them. So they say in this case, it's these things are also important for them to keep happy thoughts in their mind, comfortable thoughts, thoughts of helping others and just love. It's important to have those in their mind because that will also, having those things in their mind will help them to move to a better place. And so these thoughts will trigger the seeds in their mind that will help them to decide where to go next. So it's important that these thoughts are very pure, very happy, very beautiful, and there shouldn't be any bad thoughts and there shouldn't be any disturbing emotions. So Geshe-la also says that if a person doesn't have any particular religion, then it's good to remind them of all the good things they've done in their life. And so he talks, sometimes he talks about his father, who was, when he was very young, he was involved in a war and he had to kill a lot of people. That was his job. And I think he was 17 years old. He was very young. And so in order to help his father when he was dying, he said, he said, you remember you did this? And his father said, yes. And he said, you wouldn't do that again, would you? And he said, no, I would not do that again. And so that kind of thing, to remind people of the good things they've done and also to feel regret for things they may have done to hurt others, and also a decision not to do those things. So this will clear their mind as they're dying. They won't be weighed down by guilt. If they can acknowledge the things they've done and say, this, I would not do this again, then that will help them very much to die with a clear conscience and with a happy mind. So then the next one, so the process of dying is very similar to a deep meditation. And what's happening as you're dying is that the mind is going deeper and deeper. So I think most of you are familiar with meditation. And so you know what that's like to go into a deep meditation. And that's what's happening as a person's dying. Their mind is going deeper and deeper. And it gets to a very subtle state. And there's if you think about the anatomy of your consciousness, so when your mind is going deeper, then it goes into, I think often, especially in Western culture, we say that the center of consciousness is the brain. And most Asian cultures will say it's in the heart. And so the consciousness is going into the heart. And 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 so when you're in a deep meditation or when you're dying, then the consciousness is moving into the heart. And after the person has stopped breathing, they might say, "Oh, they're dead," but this is not the case. They look like they're dead. I mean, we would say the body is cold. They're not moving, they're not breathing. But the state of mind is still, there's still consciousness in the body. And they say it's located in the heart area. And after they say what they often say is that after a person dies, they're in a state of meditation. And sometimes it can be as much as 10 days or maybe a week. If it's a very sudden death, then it will happen instantly. Like if somebody is in a car accident, and then the shock of it will often, they won't go into this long meditation. But if it's a more slow death, and sometimes even with a sudden death, the consciousness will stay there, and you don't think that the person's mind is still there, but it is. And so what happens is that after a period of maybe a week or 10 days or something, or even less, then the mind comes out of this state of meditation. So ideally, at this time, the mind will come out of this state naturally. And this is at this point, when the mind is coming out of its meditation, then that's the actual time of death. So if if we if the body is disturbed or even touched sometimes, then the meditation will be broken. This is not always the case. We had one of our teachers, a few months ago, passed away, and he was in the hospital. They took him all the way home, and he was still in meditation. So it's a possible to move the body, but you have to be very careful. Normally, they say that if you have to move the body, then the best place is to touch them. Wherever you touch them is where the mind will leave from that area. So ideally, you touch them on the top of the head, and that has to do with if you touch them maybe on the feet or something, then it's not so uplifting. Their next where they go after that is not going to be as good. If they come out of the ideally from the top of the head, then so you touch them there to call their attention to it, and then they can move out. And that the mind at that place is in a state of consciousness that is more uplifting, and so it becomes better for them. But it's better if possible not to touch them at all. So you have to be really careful, and best to leave the person alone while they're in this state after the body appears to be dead, than to leave them as long as you can by themselves so that they can naturally complete this meditation process. Then after the mind has left the body, then they say that so this deep meditation is finished, and the person is truly dead. So then they say certain liquids will come out of the nostrils and maybe also out of their lower parts. And so at certain times of death, then urine and feces will come out. This is not what we're talking about. This is later. And so after they're finished with the deep meditation, then the liquids they call red and white substances, and these come out of the nose and also of lower parts. And then at that point, the body can be touched. And sometimes they say also if somebody's in a hospital bed and the doctors want to use it for someone else, So you have to make sure you have to get them out of this state of meditation quietly. Then you can ask them, just say, you know, please, you know, please come out of your meditation, and you can touch them on top of the head. And at that point, they say, then the liquids will be released and you can touch the body. Okay. When these are all questions that this doctor was asking Ken Rinpoche, and so these are his answers. So the next question he asked is it all right after death to put the body into a refrigerated area? So this is something that's common. Usually after somebody dies, the I don't know, I've never seen it myself, but I've seen in on television shows, they take the body downstairs and there's a bunch of drawers they put them in, like into a refrigerated area, and that way the body won't decay so quickly. But he said here that this is not a it's a dangerous practice, because if the person is still in this deep meditation, then they'll start to feel cold, and then they'll be craving heat, and then they say this might cause them to take a rebirth in a hot place that wouldn't be comfortable. So they say before you refrigerate the body, it's best to wait 24 hours and even longer if you can. As we all know, this is not usually possible. So they say then if it's not possible, then it's good to ask the person to release their state of meditation. Then there's the question about, okay, so if the person is in a state of deep meditation, then is it appropriate to donate their organs for them to? So ideally, the person has already said, okay, I want to donate my whatever organs after I've died. So normally you have to do it immediately. And so if the person is still in a state of deep meditation, this can be disturbing, obviously. You have to be really careful. If the person has, if they have great compassion and they've already said they want to do this, then it's a good thing for them to do this. If this is their decision and they wanted to do it, it should be out of their kindness and their own decision to want to give their organs, and especially not for sale, but because only out of kindness and out of love for others. Of course, in this case, you would want to make sure that they are out of this deep meditation before you start harvesting the organs. Then somebody was asking about euthanasia, or ending someone's life to prevent them from further suffering. And according to the belief of Ken Rinpoche, this is his position, which is common with the in his tradition, that it's wrong to turn off life support or to do anything to cause someone's life to end. And he says even if they appear to be dead, that they may be in a deep meditation, and so it's best to not to deliberately cause their physical death until it happens naturally. Also, if somebody now it's become more common that even it's legal for somebody who is somebody is they're suffering a lot, and or they know they're going to start suffering if this disease continues. They say also in that case it's better not to end their life deliberately, because they say you never know what the next life is going to be. It could be even worse. If you understand how karma works, then whatever is whatever you're experiencing is something that you've created in the past. And so even if you stop it now, it will, if you have a if if that particular experience is still there, then it will come in the next life. So this is the this is what Ken Rinpoche taught. Okay, then let's see. So then, how can we help somebody after they die? So the example that they give here is that in our lifetime, that we do a lot of bad deeds. We do a lot of, I mean, everything you do. If you think about everything you do during the day, all the thoughts, like even all the thoughts you have, most of them are not very kind. And so he says this, like you have these like some black stones, and those will be the bad deeds. And then you have some good deeds as well. So like those are the white ones. And what happens is after you die, it's kind of almost random. Like whatever you happen to be thinking about, or what if so, that's why people who are around you when you die need to have such a pure, happy state of mind, because that will help you to pick out the good deeds that you've done, and that was the one that will ripen in your next life. So if if somebody's dying, this is why you need to be really careful to help them to ripen the positive karmas. Any good karma they may have, remind them of any good thing they did. And this can be also after they died. You continue to connect with them. And we'll talk more about that later. So then what kind of prayers and rituals will help the person? So now this is in the belief system of the people that he was talking about. And this is in the belief system of Ken Rinpoche, that after somebody dies, then their mind goes into an in-between state. So between death and the next birth. And it's kind of an interesting process. What happens is that somebody is like reborn into this in-between state, and the life there, it doesn't last more than 7 days, but they can die and then become an in-between again. So this can be up to 7 times. So after death, they enter this state before their next birth, before their next apart from the in-between state. They so they can, and they can connect with you, and we'll talk about that later too. But this is something that comes up sometimes, that so 7 times 7 is 49. So in this belief system, in the Buddhist belief system, it can be a total of 49 days before the next real birth is taken. As it could be less, but it's never more than 49 days. And so often after somebody dies, they will do some kind of a ritual, and that is meant to help the person in this in-between state. But then often they'll do another one on the 49th day after their death. And this is a special one for purifying all their bad deeds and to help them to take a higher birth. And the way they count it is the day they die is the first day. So then they count up to 49. And this is something also that in the monasteries, for example, they do these practices, and we can do these as well. That at these specific times there are practices that you can do for people who have died. Okay, then the next one. Then they were asking about what kind of a funeral service is appropriate. So in this belief system, it doesn't matter whether the body is cremated or buried. Because the after the after the consciousness is gone, the person who it was, they're no longer in this body. They're not associated with the body. So whatever the custom is where you're living, whatever the family feels comfortable with, that's either one is fine. There's a custom not to burn the body, but I think that's coming from some thought that if somebody has a serious contagious disease, that the smoke would be unhealthy. But in science, we understand that this isn't the case. So either way is fine. Another thought is that if you bury bodies, then you could use the land. You're using up land that could be used for somebody who's alive. And and so then that would be a reason not to bury them. But then they say there's other spirits and things that might want to eat the body, and then they might get sick. So in that case, cremation would be better. I think in science now we wouldn't say that. Like for instance, the worms that eat your body are not going to get sick. But anyway, so it's totally up to you. Whatever you want to do. One thing he mentioned that in some countries they have like everybody gets together, the families and the friends. They call it a wake in English. And lots of times they drink a lot, and this also they say don't do that. Don't have a big party and get drunk when somebody dies. And so so let's see. Oh, that's funny. I think that one happened twice. So then hang on a sec. So then the person who died might not be immediately aware that they have died. And let's see, hang on, I'm looking at something. So after the person dies and they're in this between state, they might not be aware that they have died. And they might feel frustrated when they see their family and they're talking to them and nobody's listening and nobody's talking to them. And and so there's this practice that Geshe Michael has been teaching, and especially when somebody says their child has died or their parents have died, he says this is something that you can do. You can spend. So the idea is when the person is when they see their family and nobody they like especially at a meal, and there's no place for them there's no place set for them. They might be talking and nobody can hear them, everyone's ignoring them, and it takes them a while sometimes to realize that normal people can't see or hear them anymore. And so, especially at the very beginning when they first die, they might be very upset. And at this point, you can talk to them. And, just you might even feel that they're there. But even if you don't feel that they're there, you can just believe that they can hear you. And so this will help them to get calmed down, become more comfortable. And so then they can listen to what you say. And this means that at this time, you can help them to trigger the good seeds that they've collected during their life and remind them of virtuous things that they've done, or things that you've seen them do, or things that you've heard that they did, and just like be kind to them, and just like the way you would talk to them anyway, if even if you could see them, just know that they can hear you. One of the things he mentioned before is that you can write a letter to them, or a journal. So the letter, you can write a letter to update them on what you're doing, or to ask advice, or just tell them what they mean to you. Or what Geshe Michael suggests is to keep a journal of all the good things you know that they did in their life. And this can be a really big thing, you just keep reminding them of all these things that they did. And you can keep updating the journal. Somebody can tell you, oh, I remember your mother used to do this thing. And you can keep updating and write down, oh, this is another good thing they did. And then you can talk to them and tell them. So he says several times a day, you can sit down in a quiet place and talk to them. So you could be maybe in a garden or at home on the couch, and look at the list in the journal that you've been keeping and talk to them as if you're speaking to somebody who's like just right close to you, because they will be close to you. And then say this, describe something wonderful that they did for you or for someone else or for a friend, and use a lot of detail and make them feel very good about what they did and thank them for everything they did. And this will help them a lot, because then it will make them feel good about what they did in their life. And speak as if you are reminding them of something that you expect them to remember. And speak loudly enough so that somebody who's sitting a few feet in front of you would hear. It's important for them to it's important to speak loudly enough so that they can understand. Then there's this traditional thing about 49 days. So they say after 49 days, then they move on to their next life. But Geshe Michael says that if you had a special connection with that person during their life, then they can hear you even after 49 days. And we know people who have even been speaking to their children who died. Even 25 years later, they're still talking to them. And it really helps the person to activate the good karmic seeds. And it helps them with their transition. It helps them in their next life. And it strengthens the bond that will help you to meet them again in a future life. So all of this practice it comes from traditional texts that emphasize the topic called higher knowledge, or abhidharma. And so this is something that the Diamond Cutter Classics group has been translating with the help of Stanley. So if you go to the mixed nuts classes, translation classes, then this is one of the texts that they're translating. And there's two that have been translated so far, and so they should be available to download, I think, or to buy a hard copy. Those should be available pretty soon. One is a commentary on the Abhidharma Kosha by Choni Lama Drakpa Shedrup, and then there's another one called Compendium of Higher Knowledge, Abhidharma Samuchaya by Master Asanga. And I just thought you might like to know. There's a QR code there if you want to connect with the Diamond Cutter Classics, and you can find out about listening to these translations. And then if you want to have help with anything about aging or dying, or we have grief groups that meet, or if you want to get help with prayers for someone who's passed, then this is all available on our website, blueskyfriends.org. Okay, so that's that's what I wanted to pass on to you today. Um, Maybe if there's any questions, uh, we could we could have that. Um, if anyone has any questions, I'm not sure exactly how to do that, but let's see. I guess you could put them in the chat.
There is a question from Anna. Are there
Yeah,
any special circumstances when a person who has taken tantric vows die?
yeah, there are some things that you can do. Um, Assuming you also have, if you have the same practice that they have, then you can help them with that. You can use what you've learned in that practice. Um, and according to your other, I mean, if you even if you don't have that practice, they say that even if you don't understand the language, somebody who's in the in-between state understands languages even if they didn't know them in their life. So whatever you say with belief and sincerity, that will the person will hear that and it will help them. So they don't necessarily have to, you don't necessarily have to have the same practice. But if you know they have a practice, you could also ask someone else who has that practice, and ask them to help that person, or connect them somehow. So then there's another question: How did people know the teacher who passed was still in meditation after he was moved to his home? Oh, yeah. They were very familiar because it was a community of people who, they had seen teachers die in the past. But I think that you can tell there's a little warmth around the area of the heart. I think that's one of the things they say. And also the liquid hadn't come out of the noses and the lower organs. So until that happens, then you assume. I haven't actually seen this myself, but what I've heard is that the person will be sitting in meditation, and then they'll just kind of like, it becomes obvious that they're no longer there.
So then
Uh,
there's a question, are there any ways we know if the person has come to, I think it's the end of their life. It says to their life.
oh, I saw that and I thought it meant to the next life.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Answer both, maybe.
Maybe Grace can tell us. Next life, yeah.
Next life.
Okay. Hmm. They assume that after 49 days that the person has come to their next life. So then I was saying that you can still talk to them. And I believe you can. Um, this is only my own experience, but sometimes you have this feeling of somebody loves you, and maybe especially when you're young, and it's not somebody that you know. And I think that might be the case, that the person is aware somehow, that there's this kindness coming for them. That's what I think happens. But to know that they've come to the next life, then after 49 days you can assume they've come to their next life. Oh, wait a sec. This thing is My computer is trying to tell me to back up, but I'm not backing up. Okay. So next one. After we ask them, please come out of their deep state of meditation, do we wait until the liquid comes out before we touch their head? No, you can touch their head at that point while you're asking them, and that will draw their attention to that point. And but you and you may not see any signs. So I would give them, at least a half an hour. I'm just thinking, if you're in the hospital and they're telling you, quick, quick, we gotta clear the bed for someone else, then you just ask them very sincerely, come out of your meditation and then touch them on the head. They say usually before you touch any other part of them. So I think you just give them some time, and then you just I think you can assume that they've gone. If they have a religion that dictates different process after death regarding time for burial or being moved, can you still help them according to your Buddhist beliefs? Oh yeah, sure. Definitely talking to them. You can definitely do that. Um, I think, I mean, even if somebody died before you had these teachings, you can still talk to them. Even if it's been many years, you can do that. Um, and you can still help them. I think the connection that you have with them is so powerful. Especially if it's a parent or a child, the connection is very strong. And so whatever the beliefs are, the connection is very strong, and you can rely on that as well to make a difference in your ability to help them. Oh, that I think I accidentally answered the next question. Um, yeah, if your father has died for a year, you can definitely. What I would do is talk to them, remind them of all the good things they did, and like what I said before, they even if they're in their next life, they can get a feeling of comfort. They might not explicitly remember exactly what you're talking about, but definitely you can help them. So that's an important question, really. Um, is 7 days part of 49? Yeah, the 7 days. So what they say is, after you die, you're reborn in the in between state. So it's almost like you're. I mean, you don't have parents or anything, but you find yourself in this in between state, and the body that you have lasts for 7 days, and then it goes through a transition and it gets reborn. So this happens 7 times. So yeah, the 7 days is part of this 49. It's seven and then 14, and then it's up to 49. Oh, QR code isn't working. Oh, we've been having a lot of trouble with QR codes lately. Um, Gelsa, do you think you could put something up? Are you still
I'm still co-host.
uh,
Um, I'll just put up the URL for it and we'll
oh, and
try and sort it out. Not sure what's going on.
you can
So
put the
putting,
URL in the chat too if
yeah, that's what I'll do.
okay, good. That should work.
Yeah,
Um that's funny.
very simple.
We had a lot of problems with the QR code yesterday. And it's funny that everything seems to be. They say that when you're doing something very virtuous, that you get a lot of opposition and a lot of obstacles. So that's what we're saying. We get the QR codes aren't working because we're doing something very virtuous. Um, we're going to learn what prayers we can do for them during the 49 days in between stay. Yes. Um, we've been translating some of them. And there's one very beautiful one that we can. Do you have access to that? You could put it in the chat.
Let me have a look for it. I do have it somewhere.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful one. It's very short, but it gives you a good idea of what's possible. And after that, on the website, we're going to connect more, and we're going to try and translate as many as we can. So if you connect with the website later, we'll make those available. Can I do Tonglen meditation for my mother? Yes, of course you can. Even if she's passed away for many years, you still have that connection. You will always have that connection. You know, half of half of your DNA comes. You know, you're so close to your mother, and so yeah, you can do Tonglen for your mother. You can also think, well, wherever she is now, you know, don't necessarily think of her as your as the as she was before, but as she is now, and send her help and love and support. Yeah, for sure. Oh, so the, the next one, I have grandparents who passed away many years ago. I've never even seen their faces. I know their names. So how can I know if they've passed on to their new life? How can I help them? I have my two grandfathers I never saw. They both died before I was born. And so I'm in the same situation. And I think you hear a little bit about them from the relatives, from your parents maybe. And so you have an idea of that person. I know I have an idea of my grandfathers. Not much though. And then I think about that person and like I know one of them was a doctor, so then I can think he must have helped many people. And just whatever little things you know about them. Also, you know, like your parents, 1/4 of your DNA comes from your grandparents, each of your grandparents. So you have a very strong physical connection with them as well. So they must have passed on. If it's more than 49 days, they are definitely in a new life. And so you can help them that way. You know, just think about where they must be. If you hear things about them from your parents, then you can think you will have heard. I mean, if you hear things about them, the good things that they did, and you can remind them of those things, and it's kind of nice that way. My father has passed for 3 months plus. I've been talking to him whenever I could, especially when I'm planting very meaningful seeds. I will get him to plant the superb seeds together, and it becomes quite habitual now. That's nice. Yeah, that's good. Oh, okay. So, Gyalse has put it's called Jiangchoke, and it's in the chat now, and that's in English, but you could probably run it through a translator online, or we're going to translate them as soon as we can. So this was it's a I don't know. I think it's a very beautiful prayer that you can use, and I think it's very helpful. Okay, so I think that's the end of the questions, unless somebody has any more. So thank you all for coming. And I guess for most of you, it's going to be tonight. So I hope you sleep well. And for the rest of us, it's morning. And so I hope everyone who's having a morning is going to have a good day. And thank you for coming.
Thank
We
you,
will,
Venerable.
we'll have another class in 2 weeks
Right. Yeah. Sorry, I should have mentioned.
at the same time, but we'll have a different URL, different Zoom meeting, and we will post that on our website. And I'll be teaching it, and once a month I'll be teaching all sorts of things about meditations to do about death awareness and how we can use that to enrich our lives now and how we can use it to think about death differently. So that will be an ongoing class as well.
So what we're planning is that each of us will teach one class per month. So every 2 weeks there will be a class. And if you have any questions or any requests, you can contact us through the website. So if there's anything particular you want us to teach, please contact us and let us know. And or you can contact Shintian because she's on our board. And so the three of us are all working together. And so, yeah. So you know.
Thank you.
I
Thank
want to
you.
say that it's just really exciting to see so many people show up for our first class. It's very encouraging. So thank you
Definitely.
all for coming. It's just
Yeah. Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, it is. Oh, I think also we're going to leave a recording of this class on our website. So if you missed it, or if anybody you want to share it with someone, we'll leave a contact. You can go on the website and download it. Okay.
Thank you to the interpreters as well, and to Cynthian and Sugang and helping us to sort out our technical difficulties this morning. It takes a whole community, so it's wonderful working together. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Venerable. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for for all those the organizer on each different countries that helping this event to be a beautiful event with all of you attending here. And thank you for all the contribution and support. And please continue to spread this Blue Sky Friends website so everybody will understand how to deal with taking care of the loved one.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank
And
you.
see you
Bye-bye.
another 2 weeks.
Mhm.